This video is on a conservative approach to energy. I think any study at all shows that hydrogen is the answer to our energy problems. It's the most abundant element in the universe. It's made by the electrolysis of water, which can be done by solar energy. It produces no pollution. The only byproduct of burning hydrogen is water. So in a closed system, you can actually recover the water and not have to use new water for each cycle. And a few years back, the lab, Los Alamos National Lab, they did a study of the efficiency of various vehicles. And the one that is the most efficient is a fuel cell hydrogen car. Those are available now on the West Coast and in Japan. But it's also interesting to note that in these tests, they also tested regular vehicles, combustion engines running on hydrogen, and they also tested it on hybrid vehicles, proving that cars can be converted to run on hydrogen. In fact, everything that burns anything can be converted to run on hydrogen. When you're burning hydrocarbons, all you're doing is burning the hydrogen off of it and taking the carbon along for the ride. And there's just no need to do that. At a modern society, we should be using hydrogen for all of our fuel needs. It answers the questions of what do you do with renewable energy when the sun don't shine and the wind don't blow? Well, when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, you make hydrogen and you store it and use it to run your generators and things. Harry Braun figured this out decades ago, and this is just from one of his websites. He makes a number of interesting observations, but here's a picture of Henry Ford. He's banging on the fender of a car made from hemp, and it runs on hydrogen, also made from hemp. So we've been running cars on hydrogen since the very beginning. It's just a big oil decided that wasn't what they wanted. Harry Braun, this particular paper can be found at, let's see, the website is phoenixprojectfoundation.us. And he goes through a whole bunch of things about hydrogen and the real things that are already happening. People have already converted their homes to run on hydrogen. Anything like that is possible if our society would just smarten up and start using it. So he would propose some large wind ships like this would be manned by a crew, and what they would do is it would make electricity from the wind, but with having the water there, it could also purify that water and then use that to make hydrogen. So he would have the lines coming back from these big wind ships to the shoreline would be the hydrogen lines with the electrical lines running in the middle of it. That way they'd be super cooled and they would transmit electricity back without any resistance and any loss of electricity. So, and here's some of the early things that ran on hydrogen. Here's a car filling up the lab over here in the 70s. That was a 70 model car filling up with hydrogen. Yet I think we've gone backwards since that time. So you should download the report. Here's the shipment of hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, across the oceans, just like we do compressed natural gas right now. And here's this transmission line I was talking about, how he runs the lines through the hydrogen. An airplane in a 707, I think in the 60s, was one engine was converted to run on hydrogen, and so we know that jet engines can run on hydrogen. The problem there is the storage of it. You couldn't store it in the wing tanks like we presently do. And so that's that. And then one of the things that I proposed is that all the coal-fired plants should be converted to run on hydrogen. And here's for the Four Corners area is kind of a sample of what you could do. Here's the equation that shows that it's continuous, that you have to add energy each cycle from sunlight, but you can keep that cycle going at an infinite time. And the other thing I would do is make the hydrogen right at the panels instead of now they make the electricity at the panels, convert it to AC, and then move it over somewhere else and make the hydrogen. I think this might be more efficient, but I don't know. And then I just did a quick calculation, and if we covered 40 square miles with solar panels, we could completely run the 4 generators at the Four Corners area for decades and decades. The advantage of hydrogen is once you pay for this equipment, then it no longer really costs you to generate the energy. You just have the maintenance cost of keeping it up. And this shows how there's how the cycle goes. We generate the hydrogen and oxygen, store them in separate tanks, use them to run the current system if necessary. But it'd be better to move to gas turbines because you could have more of those and have smaller ones. And then you could collect the water from them directly. You collect the water, it goes back and then is recycled over and over and over again. So even though the Four Corners uses a lot of water right now because of evaporation and cooling and stuff, that would be eliminated on a system like this. So I think it's just obvious that the most conservative approach to energy would be to move to hydrogen. It would save the environment, it would be renewable, it would cost much less in the end, it would produce a lot of mom and pop businesses changing regular cars over to run on hydrogen or run on dual fuel. So it would conserve the very most in our society to move to a hydrogen economy.